Ah yes, baking. Who doesn't love making a sugary treat, decorating it with lots of color, and eating it in one sitting? Yep, I love a good food coma. Better yet, I love it when I get to painting and once again mixed up my food dye with my watercolor. Looks like I'm painting with food dye. So here is the food dye that I am going to be using for this video. Now, I actually just went to my local grocery store and picked up the only food dye packet they had, and it came with red, green, yellow, and blue dye. And on the back of the packaging, it actually has instructions on how to add each color and how many drops to make other colors. So I was actually really excited because normally with the painting with illustrations, I'm working with one, maybe two colors, but we actually have the option here to mix probably every color possible. Of course, limited to what we are given. So right away, swatching the colors we had, I did want to go ahead and swatch red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and purple. So I started off by putting down what they gave us, and then I mixed in some additional colors, aka orange and purple, and then I got to swatching. I was actually really surprised at how pink the red was. It wasn't very red at all. It was quite magenta-y. So that had me a little concerned, and same with the orange. The orange was looking a lot more brown than I was expecting. The yellow was bright and vivid, the green, again, loved it, the blue, very vibrant, and the purple was very deep, which I was really surprised with, and I actually really love. I also wanted to test the gradient situation, and it was pretty dang good. That blue to purple, so pretty. So after getting the basic swatches down, I was actually really curious with how the colors stayed on the paper. Were they going to pick up if I tried to layer them? With watercolor, you can pick up the colors a little bit, but for the most part, they are staying down so that you can layer them and work with them. Because this isn't an art supply, I knew that it was probably not going to work that way. It did seem like I had to work at it to get it off the page a little bit, but when I did some tests later, it didn't look so good. And then I also went over the gradient with a solid color just to see if it could handle that second wash on top, and it didn't. So that's something I'm going to have to consider when working with these colors. They can layer just a little bit, maybe similar dark colors, but something like a yellow definitely isn't going to work. I had a lot of fun just watching these colors and seeing what was up with the food dye. So once this test was done, it was time to move on. But if you are familiar with these series, before we get into painting with our food dye, we have to start sketching what we're going to draw, or paint rather, or dye? So with the series Painting with Blank, I like to draw a character that is somewhat related to the art supply, or whatever I'm painting with supply. So today, because we are painting with something that you bake with, I don't know why I cannot remember the word food dye. Because we are painting with food dye, I think it would be really cute to draw like a baker or a chef or something. I think we should do a male character. I'm always drawing female characters. I think it'd be kind of cute if we did a male character. Maybe well, usually they have heart eyes because they're in love with whatever it is we are doing. Coffee, blood, you name it. I guess he should be drooling. You know, he's a baker. And the interesting thing about this art supply is that it seems like because we have the primary colors, and of course green as well, we can probably draw anything normal colored like a person. We can get brown for skin, and we can get red blush and shading and all this stuff. So it seems like it's going to be a fairly normal looking drawing, unless I want to kind of go crazy and just kind of do the basic colors. Who knows? But it seems like we do have quite a variety, so that's actually really interesting and exciting, because usually the painting with series, you know, we're limited to whatever color, whatever it is that we are painting with is. Should we have this guy baking naked and have his little butt sticking out? Would that be funny? Why do I always have to go in this direction? Oh my gosh, I want to make him naked for some reason. For some reason. Everyone knows I like to draw butts. Who doesn't like to draw butts? Can you believe I went out and specifically made a cake just for the intro of this video? The intro that lasts, what, 15 seconds? Do I wonder, let's see, we usually have like a circle as usual behind our character. What if we have like cookies or cupcakes or just like baked things arching around them, and then the burst could be coming around that. That might be really fun. Oh no, I'm drawing a waist. I'm gonna make it into a girl. And you know I want to give them a butt. I like this pose. This one's really fun. A little less stiff than this one. Again, we can have our circle. Let's see, make it go up a little higher. Have our circle here. And then we can have like eggs and flour. And then like the bowl over here. And then everything's kind of swirling into it. I just drew an ant on top of a cake instead of drawing another idea. You know what that means. It means I'm going to pencil our drawing onto our paper and then get to painting. Here we go. When I got into penciling our little chef character, I started to think about all of the colors we had available with this painting with food dye. And with a chef character, I was going to do some skin tones, a white coat. It seemed like I wasn't taking advantage of all the colors we had for this challenge, so I thought I would do, oh you know, a clown chef. Because clowns are very colorful, and honestly, I just really wanted to do a rainbow clown fro. I just really wanted to. So I penciled the same pose from earlier, and this time decorated them up to be a clown. Instead of just ingredients going into the bowl, they have some juggling balls, a bowling pin, a rubber chicken, you know, the usual ingredients to make cookie dough. And they're not naked, but they're in their underwear because clowns are silly. I could have sworn clowns being in their underwear was one of the gags, but when I googled it, I couldn't find but one image of a clown in very oversized boxers, so maybe I just really wanted to draw someone naked. Classic me. So after I decided to draw a clown character, I was really excited, even more so than I already was, to get started because, like I said, we have lots of colors. We have a rainbow wig that I was just dyeing. Oh wait, that's a pun. Food dye. I just always get super excited with these painting with videos because it's really interesting just seeing the weird struggles you have to work around when working with a non-art supply to make a drawing. And I was just really excited to paint something super colorful because these dyes were just super colorful. So I wanted to start off with the skin tone just to get our base character down, and I was so pleasantly surprised with the skin tone I was able to mix out of these colors. Now obviously it's just like watercolor, you've got your yellow and red and you mix those up and make a skin tone, but I was having a little bit of a struggle getting out of this weirdly just orange tone. I needed to add a little bit more red to it to give it that skin color. It was really hard though, either I added too much red and it was just super magenta, or I didn't add enough and they looked very yellow and sick. But thankfully I was able to find a nice medium, and I just love how well the blush went to the knees, and I actually think the legs are my favorite part of this illustration. They just looked so nice and crisp. Continuing to color all of the other objects that the clown chef was holding, I just wanted to make sure I got a lovely mix of colors. And as tempting as it was to tone some of them down, because as most of you know, I do love to work with really earthy colors, ones that aren't just super bright and in your face. I like a nice chill color. Colors that look like poop, basically. But I did want to use the food coloring at its actual full potential, or I guess raw state, just because I did want to get those really bright, vivid colors, because we're working with food dye. That's what food dye is. It's very bright and colorful. I want to make sure that I use the materials as they are. And oh my gosh, did I not use them at their full potential with that wig. That wig was so much fun, just making this really colorful rainbow gradient, just going crazy with it, making textures and swirls. It was so much fun, and I think it turned out so cute. I absolutely love it. Shading is also very scarce in this illustration just because with my tests I noticed that they really activated whatever the first layer was when you tried to put a second layer on top. so I knew that any sort of shading I was going to do on top of a first layer was probably going to activate it and then destroy whatever I was trying to do. It was hard enough coloring things right next to each other. Going into this illustration, I was actually wondering if I was going to do a lineless look. In other words, was I going to use line work or not? Because the legs were turning out so good and I really liked the lineless look, it was tempting. But later, as I worked closer and closer to other colors and found them bleeding into each other, I decided that it would probably be best to go ahead and put line work over it to smooth things out and cover up those blurs and mess ups and white borders that I kept between colors. That said, I knew it was going to be risky to add line art because again, I was adding something on top of something else, which was going to risk it bleeding, but thankfully the line work didn't actually bleed for some reason. I was very thankful for and very confused by. To make a black food dye, I just mixed red and green together. If you want to make a black with any sort of paint, you just mix in the complements. It was still kind of brown looking at first, so I added a little bit of blue and it made a really nice, as black as I could get color. It's still pretty dark gray, but I think it turned out really well. And if you have watched any of my other painting with videos, I have already added the sort of explosion of color in the background. Of course, I had to do a rainbow explosion because this illustration was so colorful and I was enjoying that rainbow wig so much. Really, I just wanted to embrace those really bright, vivid colors. And you know what? I love the results. This turned out so fun. It was really interesting painting with food dye. It was what, $3 for all of this paint? The most colorful painting with video so far, and honestly, one of the easiest. It was very similar to working with watercolor. In fact, probably better than most dollar store watercolor paints I've ever tried. Wow. And with that, we are done with our painting with food dye illustration. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a cake to eat. Yum. Stay golden. And now a huge thank you to my wonderful patrons for all of their support. You guys are the best. If you want to be in the credits at the end of my videos, see secret sketches, coloring pages, early access, and more, check out my Patreon by clicking a link in the description. Thank you guys all so much for the support. Bye!